The trail we blaze is a road uncharted through terra incognita to a golden shrine. No place.
Every Uncharted game is so widely acclaimed and just so friggin' awesome that everybody honestly just forgets about the first game or completely dogs on it, and in this video I'm gonna tell you guys all exactly why they are all wrong. But before we get into that, let's go back to the beginning real quick. The PlayStation 3 started off as Sony's worst console launch in the company's history. Even up to this day, it's still considered the worst launch they've ever had. But somehow, they turned it into a monumental achievement that would wind up outselling all its competitors that console cycle, despite all its initial flaws.
You can't believe everything you read on the internet. That's how World War I got started.
PS3, now $2.99.
This was also the generation we were given the first entry in what would become arguably PlayStation's biggest hit in the modern age. The Uncharted franchise is known for its beautiful cinematic set pieces, charming characters, and the overarching love story with Nate and Elena.
Do you know how to use one of these?
Yeah, it's like a camera. You just point and shoot, right?
Good girl. Here we go.
I still remember booting up the demo for Drakes Fortune way back when, and honestly, it was one of the first moments in my life I really felt the great leap forward in technology. I mean, the game just looked beautiful, and it literally felt like I was playing my favorite adventure movie just in real time. That's something for some reason the Indiana Jones games or the Mummy games never really quite nailed, but Tomb Raider used to come really close to. The gameplay is broken up into three core mechanics: the shooting sections, the exploration and puzzle solving, and then the platforming sections in between, sometimes even being incorporated with the puzzles, but they're usually their own things. While these features would all be widely fleshed out in the later entries, it all started with Drakes Fortune in 2007. Like many first entries of all great franchises, it's very bare bones to what would be refined in the future. It features strong similarities to other IPs from the developer's catalog, while bringing something new to the table. This leaves the first game in kind of a weird spot where it's easy to forget it exists, but you totally shouldn't skip it like most people do. Drake's Fortune opens with the treasure hunter Nathan Drake and reporter Elena Fisher breaking open the coffin of the late English explorer Francis Drake. The English explorer was known mostly for his efforts in being one of the first men to circumnavigate the globe, while also receiving permission and funding from the Crown in England to commit piracy against the rival nation of Spain and her colonies in the Americas. You see, after Europe became aware of the Americas, the Age of Discovery kicked off, and thanks to other explorers like Columbus or Ponce de Leon, Spain became a very wealthy nation. Other countries such as England, however, didn't really have the resources or funds for such expeditions across the Atlantic. So their solution was that England secretly would start to encourage and directly finance piracy against Spanish ships to gain the resources they would need to build their own empire and take their slice of the pie. The Spanish would give Drake the nickname El Drake, or in English, the Dragon, due to his various devastating raids against Spanish ships where he would not only steal riches but even slaves. Their fear of him ran so strong that he was even accused of witchcraft, with some believing that he made a pact with the devil to be given the ability to see all the locations of all the ships in the sea.
Will we discover the ruins of a forgotten colony and a fortune in Spanish gold? Or does the island have darker secrets in store for us?
You can see how this heavily ties into the plot of a game like Uncharted, and the story definitely feeds into a lot of these superstitions and supernatural legends that surrounded the explorer. When Drake died of dysentery in 1596, he was buried in a lead coffin out at sea. While Drake's coffin in real life was never found, we see in Uncharted it is in fact discovered, but without his body inside, with the implication that he faked his death while leaving behind clues to what Nate believes are to the famous El Dorado, the city of gold.
Yeah. El Dorado on up the place. Thank you. Local feeling should not be ripped off. Never rip off a local feeling. No, my friend, it's of God. But if you get the people's nod,
Now enough of the history lesson, we'll get back to the actual game. After discovering the coffin in Drake's diary, Nate and Elena are ambushed by pirates who you'll be fighting for the bulk of the game, if not all of the game. They only narrowly escape thanks to Victor Sullivan, a good friend of Nate. The rest of the game follows with what would become a series staple, a race to the treasure against the seemingly never-ending army who wants the treasure for nefarious reasons. A classic Indiana Jones Tomb Raider-esque plotline with a fresh coat of paint and a really addicting gameplay loop. As I said before, Uncharted would become much more refined over time with lots more complex set pieces in the future entries, so Drake's Fortune seems to rely more on its shooting segments and the platforming. The whole game admittedly feels a little like a next-gen tech demo for the PS3, and honestly that's okay because even in 2025, some of these environments are just absolutely gorgeous, and they only look better with the Nathan Drake collection. It's also for these reasons a lot of people tend to avoid recommending the first game and instead opting to tell people to jump right into 2, which is understandable because it's genuinely one of the best games ever made, but Uncharted 1 I believe bookends the series extremely well with especially how the 4th game ends, that I think it's worth your time whether you're trying to get into this franchise or if you're have played the later entries and are still, you know, haven't gotten to this one yet. There's something that just feels extremely fun and arcadey about the movement and shooting in Drake's Fortune, and the gunplay just feels really snappy and crisp. Especially when using the finest piece of technology Italy has ever produced besides pizza, the M9 Beretta, which you can probably solo the entire game with, to be honest, it's just that good. I would also really just like to emphasize the fact that the Beretta M9 is featured in pretty much any game that lets you use a gun. It's probably harder to find a game that doesn't have a Beretta than one that does. And still, somehow Uncharted 1, I think, has one of, if not the best one. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of why the 1911 Black Ops 1 is so memorable. It's got this silver sleek finish, and just like I mentioned, super crisp and snappy firing. And the reload animations are really good, and it just feels super satisfying to use. Some of the platforming sections honestly just feel straight up like a Crash game at times, and the shooting, like I said, doesn't really feel like it's aiming for realism, but it feels super smooth and just really damn fun. From Uncharted 2 onward, you kind of feel like you're playing a movie, and it's really awesome, but Drake's Fortune feels more like you're playing a game. The cutscenes are still pretty plentiful, but they're spaced out much more, and they really feel like they only come when something significant happens, or like when a level ends or something like that.
I don't know. I'm figuring it out as I go.
Treasures in this game are also a bit easier to find compared to the later games, and that's mostly because the levels in Drake's Fortune are much more linear, which, again, I wouldn't really label this as a bad thing. It kind of loops back around to my point about how the shooting feels. It's a much more arcadey experience, and most of the game follows much more traditional game design. It's also the only game in the franchise that I could probably finish in one sitting, and because it's far less cinematic with very few dramatic pauses or long sections in between where you're just kind of like, you know, walking in between areas while the characters talk and stuff, which I do like very much, but like I said, the appeal of Uncharted 1 is that it's like the other Uncharted games, but it feels more like you're playing a game rather than the movie aspect of it. And because of that, I think this game honestly has the most replay value of all the 5 games. It just really strikes that perfect balance between gameplay and cutscenes, the same way games like Resident Evil 4 did, where the cutscenes aren't constantly interrupting your gameplay, and instead it's just letting you kind of play the game and then you're rewarded with a cutscene only after something significant happens, or, you know, it's a way to just progress the story. The plot itself does really still, even without all the extra exposition and stuff, have so much charm to it, and it's a perfect introduction to each character that we'd get later fleshed out in the series. When we're introduced to Nate, within the first 2 minutes we see key character traits of his. He's driven, highly intelligent, but also can be very dishonest, and he's gonna do whatever he can to get his way.
Shouldn't we call the authorities or something?
Yeah, that'd be a great idea, but we don't exactly have a permit to be here.
What?
Elena is a very career-driven person as well, and she's equally as passionate about her field of study as Nate is, but she's clearly much more by the book and more clean-cut. The other great thing about Drake's Fortune in terms of story and characters is that we see Nate and Elena combining their passions together, with Nate pursuing this legendary treasure hunt and Elena is getting to document it for her show. Besides working together for survival, it's really the only time we see them really working towards mutual life goals until the end of Uncharted 4, when they open up their own business together, which is completely by the books and legal, and, you know, they get to have their happy ending. And honestly, this just bookends their relationship really quite nice with their start in Drake's Fortune. So I feel like if you skip the first game, you're probably gonna miss out on the initial spark of passion these two have for their respective interests and each other. And you'll definitely be scratching your head why they even put up with each other at all during the events of 2 and 3, maybe even 4. Sully, of course, is the lovable mentor character and slightly perverted old man with a really big heart, but also has a really shady past that makes him not as trustworthy as he is later on. This game also gives this character a lot of twists and turns that kind of keep the player on their toes whenever he's around, which is pretty much exclusive to this entry. Sully is pretty much like straight good guy the rest of the series.
My end is near. The devils hunt for me in the darkness. The gold of El Dorado bears a terrible curse. The Spaniards have unleashed hell, become as demons. My men have all been murdered, leaving the task to me alone. No ship will depart this island. I destroyed them all and drowned the cursed city. A thing of such great evil must never leave these shores. In my final hour, I commend my soul to God. May he have mercy on this unholy place. Francis Drake.
Drake's Fortune builds up the curse of El Dorado really well, and as I said before, tying it in with the legends and mythology surrounding the real Francis Drake, the supernatural twist is genuinely just really cool, and it became a staple of the original trilogy, with Uncharted 4 being really the only one that didn't have any supernatural elements in it. A lot of newer fans of the franchise tend to critique these twists, and personally, I really couldn't disagree more. Uncharted is highly influenced by movies like Indiana Jones and The Mummy, both of which include many supernatural elements. I would argue Uncharted actually derives more from The Mummy than Indiana Jones. Nate dresses more similar to O'Connell, and his relationship with Elena more kind of mirrors the relationship that O'Connell has with Evelyn, and it even ends with them both having a family together in the end, which Indiana Jones technically has too, but clearly it's more disjointed and dysfunctional, whereas Evelyn and O'Connell is more like solid family, you know, continuing the family business and love of antiquities and stuff like that. Cursed Treasure is a very significant part of both these franchises that were an inspiration for Uncharted, and it's a big part of the first 3 Uncharted games. It adds a new layer of suspense, and it's also, just from a gameplay standpoint, a really nice change up from just fighting soldiers the entire time, which I think personally has always helped the pacing of the games as well. Especially in 2 or 3, where 2 or 3 are significantly longer games than Uncharted 1 is, so it just really breaks up the game nice so it doesn't feel like you're just shooting the same things the entire runtime. As much as I do love Uncharted 4, I feel like the game did really slack in that department, and I feel like it would have been really cool to have at least some sort of supernatural part in it.
Come on, we left those clowns in the dust ages ago. Oh my god! That's disgusting. Oh, I wish I had my camera. So what? The Spanish booby-trapped the island to protect their gold?
This wasn't made by the Spanish. Take a closer look at the spikes.
You have got to be kidding me.
This is from our plane.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense, though. Why would someone set traps like this when their own men are crawling all over the island?
They wouldn't. Something's been here since a trap was sprung.
Something or someone? Do you think
Shh. Do you hear that?
Hear what?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We're being watched.
Watched?
I do think Eddie was killed off a little too soon and could have been killed off at another point in the game or in the series, because his dynamic with Drake was always very entertaining in this game. And to be honest, I think the biggest issue with Drake's Fortune is not just having Eddie be the main villain instead, because the actual main villain, let's be honest, is admittedly pretty weak and forgettable, with the final boss fight leaving a lot to be desired. It fits in with the arcadier style of game, but Uncharted as a franchise just for some reason can't really get final boss battles right, and in a series that would surprisingly expand its simplistic gameplay in tons of unique ways, it still somehow had the final battle of the franchise end in a glorified series of QuickTime events. Which, I mean, hey, I guess another bookends for the series if you want to look at it that way, since the first game ended exactly the same way. Albeit maybe a little worse. Uncharted 4's final boss is a little bit better, but I don't know. For these reasons, I'd really highly implore you to still play what is, without a doubt, a gaming milestone. I hope I've convinced you to maybe give it a playthrough if you've been meaning to get into the series like I said, or you played the other entries and you still haven't gotten around to this one and were hesitant about it because, you know, of all the people being like, oh, it's actually not that good, blah blah blah, or you should just play 2, you should just play 3, you should just... I've even heard some people say you should just skip to 4, which I think is ridiculous, but, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I was really glad to get this out. I really love the Uncharted franchise. I've always kind of wanted a way to talk about it a little bit more on the channel, so I guess this video is that. If you'd like to see me make more Uncharted videos too, let me know in the comments. I would definitely love to make one on the other games as well, or even dive into the first game a little bit more too. But anyways, that'll be all for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and make sure to like and subscribe for more stuff like this.
Looks like you're gonna have to come get it. Come on.